This is the plaintiff, Martin Faraday. He says he was attacked by the defendant's two vicious dogs, and it took 5 cop cars and taser guns to finally stop the dogs and bring them under control. The defendant's refusing to compensate him for his medical expenses and pain and suffering, so he's suing the louse for the $1,600 he's owed. This is the defendant, Michael Blackney. He says he doesn't feel responsible because someone opened his gate, probably to rob him, and then left it open when they fled. He keeps his dogs fenced in, had no knowledge of anyone leaving the gate open, and doesn't owe anyone a thing. He's accused of harboring vicious beasts.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff says he was attacked by 2 dogs owned by the defendant, and 5 cops had to come and taser the dogs to get him off him. But the defendant says someone opened his gate, so it's not his fault. It's the case of bad fences make good lawsuits.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Martin Faraday?
Yes.
You are suing Michael Blakeney for $1,600 in medical bills and pain and suffering because, according to you, he negligently allowed his pit bulls to roam free and bite you. Tell me what happened.
I was on my way home from work, and I decided to stop for a bottle of water. So I parked my truck, get out, and as I'm going to the market, I'm confronted by 2 pit bulls that appeared from out behind hedges in front of this private house. At that point, I looked at the dogs and continued to walk, and that's when the one brown dog basically came at my leg, ripped open my dungarees, and at that point I started to defend myself by punching and kicking at the dog, and there's 2 of them, so I just backtracked.
Is there anybody else around?
There was nobody else around.
Was it nighttime or daytime?
Daytime.
My goodness, go on.
And so then I backed my way onto a vehicle that was nearby, an SUV, and I was able to jump on top of that, and at that point I called 911.
You had your phone with you?
I did.
That's good.
And so I just waited on top of the car until the cops came. And at that point, they came, guns drawn, and they approached the dogs. One ran away, one stayed there, and he backed off a little bit.
One ran away, one stayed. I mean, because the dogs don't know it's a gun. I mean, so that's
well, the
peculiar.
older one did.
But one stayed there and what? And one of those officers grabbed it by the collar?
No, the officer held a gun to the dog's face.
But the dog doesn't know what a gun is. I'm astounded. So
the dog did respect it because he didn't approach the cop. He didn't lunge after the cop.
But where did that end? Where was the natural progression of that? How would they call animal control?
The dog backed off, and at that point, they went to get tasers, and they got the taser out, and they were able to tase that one dog, and the other dog gave them a little bit of a problem, but eventually they tased the second one also.
Okay. So now both dogs are tased, and what do the officers do with the dogs? How do they find the owner and everything
Animal
else?
control came,
okay.
And at that time, I guess the neighbors did come out, and they
knew who the dogs belonged to?
They did, yes.
Did they mention that the dogs had gotten out previously?
The older dog seemed to have gotten out more so than the younger dog.
How do you know that?
According to one of the neighbors.
What happened? Where were you, by the way?
I wasn't home that day. That morning, I had to take care of some business, some important business. It was October 11th, 2011. It was nice outside that morning, so I know I had to go and take care of some business. So I said to myself, let me leave them outside in the yard. I had my yard was well secured when the dogs.
Let's see how well secured your yard was. Do you have pictures?
Yes.
Because I got to tell you, apparently not. Right? How'd that work out for you, the security that you have there, which is essentially a grocery crate with some pots in it. What is that?
No, that's not pots. Those are weights.
Weights?
Yes.
Weights. They just happen to be terracotta colored, so they threw me off. Okay. So they're weights because you figure if you do that, then what? The dogs can't jump and open the door?
No, they can't. They can't get out.
Well, how'd they get out?
Somebody had to let them out. Somebody was trying to steal my dog.
Oh, you think? Somebody's trying to go into your yard and steal 2 pit bulls?
No, he's trying to take one of them. That's the brown dog.
Why?
Because she's a pit bull.
So's the other one.
The other one's a pit bull and Rottweiler mix. They don't want him. He's a male.
Your dogs are big.
No, actually, the brown dog, she's small.
She doesn't look that small.
She's small.
I'm looking at her next to a door and a cooler. I can see the relative sizes.
She's smaller than the black one.
Have your dogs gotten out before?
No, they haven't.
Why do the neighbors say they have? The neighbors are lying? Maybe those are the thieves?
My neighbors never said my dogs got out.
Why wouldn't you put a lock on that gate? If you put a lock on it, everything would be fine.
I have a chain on there on the bottom.
Yeah. What happened to the chain on there on the bottom?
No, the chain is on the bottom.
Exactly. When did that chain get on the bottom?
The chain's been on the bottom.
Well, then how did your dogs get out?
Somebody had to go in my backyard.
How did they get into your backyard with the chain? How did the dogs get out, sir?
That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
You're not doing a good job.
You buying his story that somebody came into his yard?
I think it's ridiculous.
Okay, that's kind. Are you buying that story?
No, I'm not buying it because I think the owner has a little responsibility here.
How about a lot of responsibility? Do you believe somebody came into his yard or he just left the gate open?
I just think he left the gate open.
In other words, he let the dogs out, right? Right? Going inside the courtroom.
Somebody it had to be more than two people.
And do what, sweetheart? Cut the chain with a bolt cutter?
No.
Okay, where was the chain that day?
The chain was on the top of the gate.
Where, then had they opened
like
the
once
gate?
you walk in the backyard, you can see it.
Listen to me.
Yes.
How did the door open enough to get the dogs out of the door?
Okay, where I live at, let me start from here. Where I live at, I live in a private house, 2-family house.
I just need you to answer the question I'm asking. It's a simple question. How did the gate door get open for the dogs to escape?
Whoever came in the backyard, they had to open it.
That's right. So how did they get through a chain that supposedly keeps it so secure?
Evidently, they cut it.
Good. Then show me a picture of a cut chain, evidently.
I didn't have no picture of that.
Why do I not just find you to be a complete and total liar since you seem to be making it up as you go along? Well, evidently, they cut it. That's the first you've ever said such a thing. But now you realize that with someone cross-examining you, you can't just say whatever you want without it being a little tougher, unless it's true. It gets tougher when you make it up as you go along. You get caught in the lie, like you just did. If it had been cut, we would have heard about that. We would see a photo of it. You would have said something about that to the police or to animal control. Now, when animal control says to you, show me the dog's rabies shots, like all responsible dog owners must legally possess, what did you say to them?
Well, when I got to my house, once my neighbor had called me and to explain to me what was going on, I came straight home. When I got there, the only one that was there was the officer that gave me the summons to appear in court.
What happened with that?
When I went to court, the officer asked me did I have the paperwork. I said the paperwork was in the house. I never had got a chance to go inside.
What happened to you with the summons that they gave you?
One, I pled guilty to one charge. I pled not guilty to two of them. They were dismissed. Two was dismissed, and I had to pay a fine for one.
How much did you pay?
$25.
This is why this keeps happening. Because that's how we deal with, see, it's not the dogs, it's the owners of the dogs. The dogs are animals. They're doing what comes naturally to them. But when someone puts them in a backyard and thinks that this is adequately securing them, and then lies about whether or not they had a chain, and then can't find the rabies, because of course now you ended up having to go to the emergency room and get how many rabies shots?
4 series.
4 series. You had to go back how many times to the hospital to get your shots?
4 times.
4 different times. Okay? And what happens when not one, but 2 pit bulls are roaming the neighborhood, terrorizing the victim? What happens to the dog owner? He gets a $25 charge. That's a parking fee. That's less than a parking fee in New York. That's just unbelievable to me. Unbelievable. You make it worth people's while not to be responsible. You have, let me see your medical bills, please. Do you even feel a little bit bad?
Yes.
$25,000 worth.
How's it $25,000? How does the hospital get away with that? That's another crime. That's a totally separate and distinct crime.
I called them up.
For 4 rabies shots, $25,000.
They said they wouldn't get paid unless it was on the up and up.
No,
and
that's not
paid.
true. There's no way that I assume you have insurance.
Yeah.
So what you're suing for is your deductible? You're out of pocket.
Yes.
Yeah. And they charge you $150 each time you went?
Correct.
Okay. You're asking for $1,000 for pain and suffering. Explain what it is that happened to you.
Well, just the annoyance that basically you're getting injected all these fluids into your body. It's over a 4-week period. Every time you go to the emergency room, you're there anywhere from 2 to 4 hours because they have to send out for these pharmacies.
I've heard enough. I've heard enough. I find in your favor in the amount of $1,600 verdict for the plaintiff. Be careful about those dogs.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Well, it didn't go too well for the defendant because why? Because you didn't have any defense.
Well, you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. No pic. Why didn't you take pictures of the cut chain or bring evidence?
That was my mistake. That was my mistake.
And then you had lax security, and then you didn't have the paperwork for the dog. So what's the defense?
I had the paperwork for the dog.
You didn't have it in time.
No, during the time the officer asked me for it, it was in the house. I never got a chance to go in the house.
Did you ever have a chance to apologize to the
No, I didn't.
plaintiff?
I never met the defendant. I mean, the plaintiff.
Would you like to? Would you like to say anything to him? Because he's right there. You could say, if you want to finish this. Oh,
I apologize. You know.
All right. Okay. Right down this way.
Thanks, guy.
All right. So come on in here. Did that make it feel any better right there? That apology?
It's annoying that they don't have the paperwork. You have 2 pit bulls. You should have the rabies shots. They didn't know where the rabies shots were given. So I think.
What was that moment like when you were being attacked by pit bulls?
Well, I'm not scared of dogs, but when the one ripped my pants, then I knew I could have a problem. And I just made sure I stayed on my feet and just backed up until I was safe.
Over to Harvey.
I will say this. If the gate was properly secured and somebody really did come in and he had some proof that somebody came in, that might be a defense. Not the case here. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.